Hello and welcome to the 60 for 30 project. I'm Xander Miller with Kenosha Public Library and I am sitting here today with Dove. Dove, how are you doing today?
I'm well.
Awesome. So, what neighborhood of Kenosha are you from, or what area did you grow up in?
Well, I didn't grow up here. I grew up just across the state line in Zion, Illinois. And once I had a choice in the matter, I left.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, in my opinion, religiously oppressive. And I've been a creative since early in my life, and I just really did not fit there. And I had a lot of friends that were up here, so I just naturally gravitated up here. It was much more open to creative, left of center people. So,
And so how long have you been living in Kenosha then?
on and off for probably 30 plus years.
Okay, so yeah, you've been here for a while.
Yeah.
All right. So, that said, what is Kenosha's culture to you, or how have you experienced Kenosha's culture?
A lot of it is very blue collar, working class, my people. The creative arts, we definitely do have a creative vibe going on here. I've been involved in music, visual art, video art, writing, and all of those seem to have a strong, what would be the word? A group of people that are really heavily involved in those here. Our music community in particular, I know so many different bands that they tour the entire country, and when they come through town, they're like, you people have something special here. It's an actual community instead of a bunch of cutthroat people trying to scramble to the top. So, and I'm more of a visual artist. I do music as well, but what I do is a bit more experimental, so yeah.
So really, it's like Kenosha fits you well with, blue collar workers, lots of art and music here. That's right?
Yeah. I mean, it really drew me very early on in, and now I live on the extreme north side, right on Lake Michigan. I mean, Lake Michigan is 2 houses east of me. A friend of mine describes my neighborhood as a little hidden away neighborhood of Narnia, because in wintertime it totally looks like Narnia with all the snow and everything. But yeah, that's where I've been living for the last 5 years. For a short while I moved up to Racine, and I lived on 22nd for a while. Yeah, I've bounced around Kenosha for close to 30 years.
Wow.
But yeah, and I'm just kind of, people know me as, the one who constantly produces art. Whenever there's a show going on, art show going on here in town, I'm frequently asked if I want to contribute to it. And so I've been on so many group shows, it's ridiculous. But, and they know me, they know that I always have work. Anytime that there's an art show, I have enough art to cover every inch of the wall, ceiling, and floor. So it's everything that I do, basically.
Yeah. So I guess, Kenosha's between Chicago and Milwaukee, of course.
And it's very convenient for me.
Yeah. So I imagine, what made Kenosha the choice instead of one of the larger cities?
When I was younger, I really flirted with moving to Chicago. But as I got older, the number of people stacked on top of each other, it's so claustrophobic that I can't deal with it personally. I can be there for a day or two, but after that, it's just kind of like, there's too many people. I can't deal with that. I need some space to be able to create. Otherwise, it shows in my art. It just becomes very chaotic. But yeah, I mean, my art is my way of processing things. And I don't know. Yeah, I've been to Milwaukee with my work before, but Chicago is a little bit closer to the subject matter, I guess.
Yeah. So it was between, basically, earlier it was between Chicago and Kenosha, but you decided Kenosha, less claustrophobic, just a modest, right under 100,000, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know. I know that Milwaukee is starting to rise in its rankings. I mean, so who knows? Maybe the galleries will take off with my work in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I've shown in a few galleries in Chicago. Most of the galleries here in Kenosha I've shown at, a few other places in Illinois. But yeah, I'm constantly looking around to see who's got a show that my work would fit into. What I do, I call it urban pop surrealism. I'm mostly self-taught. I had one semester of art school, and I discovered that the art snob is something that's created, and I'm not about it. It's the one part of the art world that I just can't stand. Somebody talking down their nose at you about, you don't understand. That I hate that pompous attitude, and it's what I get from a lot of that kind of, My work is very blue collar. This is one of my more recent pieces, and it took a lot of explaining to Facebook because Facebook didn't want me posting it on there because they thought it was about suicide, and it's not. It's about social media addiction, and all of the hands have a smartphone in it that has been turned into a rat trap, and they can't put it down. And it kind of becomes a noose around your neck as far as doing anything else. You just get trapped into the smartphone that you're just like this all day, having a conversation with somebody and they're doing this the whole time. You're not having a conversation with them. So, yeah, and it's intentionally designed that way. Social media, specifically Facebook. A lot of psychology went into it. It's actually more addictive than gambling. They're aware of it. And you get it for free, and if you're not paying for it, you're not the customer. You're the product. You're being sold to all the different companies that want to market to you. So that's what it's about. And at first they were certain that it was about suicide, and their way of dealing with that is, well, we just don't talk about that. Yeah.
So is that something that you see as something that you see in Kenosha as well? Just kind of social media as very addictive while you've been here?
Well, social media is addictive everywhere, and it's designed to be as such. But I have definitely noticed, I've noticed it more in the last probably 10 years, 15 years. I don't remember who did it, but some other painter did a painting, and it's called First Date. And it shows a table and two arms like this, and that's it. And it's, the person's not engaging with the person across from them. They're engaging with their phone the whole time. And it's because it's an addiction. So I have been delving into that a bit more lately, because now that I'm actually one of the older artists in the community, I can look at and recognize it in the younger people. That you try to have a conversation with them, and, well, let me get a picture here first. And, hey, let's take a selfie. And, a friend of mine's daughter sent me a friend request on Instagram, and my Instagram is just about my art career, nothing else. And if I add you on Instagram, it's because somehow you factor into art.
Mm-hmm.
And before I went to accept her, I went to take a look at what her Instagram was about. And it was literally like 2,000 selfies, nothing else. And I didn't add her, needless to say. Yeah, people have really gotten sucked into that, and end up drowning yourself and staring at your reflection in the water.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's something you see when you go to the, art shows here. Younger artist community. You said that they'll take like a picture, a selfie, rather than have that conversation first.
Yeah, and I'd rather have the conversation than sit there and selfies get on my nerves. It's like, experience the art. Don't document it and then forget about it. Because a lot of that stuff, they go and they take the pictures of it, and then they never go back to it. Unless Facebook tells them to. Hey, you have a memory. Take a look at this.
Yeah.
But of their own accord, they don't go back to it because they're too busy chasing the next selfie or whatever. But this is just one of the, I guess it'd be, socio-political things that I've addressed. A lot of my work is informed by marginalized societies, members of society, and how the greater politics influence it. So needless to say, when Trump was in office, that factored heavily into it. Political party? I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. So I can pick apart either one of them. And I had a heyday with Trump. There was no effort to, the guy just seemed to reach into the grab bag of what's bad from history and let's reinvent this. I still have a very large, mostly finished painting of Trump and Hitler superimposed on each other. And it's 8 feet tall.
That is huge.
Yeah. When Black Lives Matter was more in the headlines, I actually started this, before Black Lives Matter had national coverage. I grew up in an almost all black neighborhood, and I graduated high school 98 pounds, 6'1". And so I was the skinny, pasty white kid that lived in the all black neighborhood. Everybody in my neighborhood looked out for me because I'm from the neighborhood. And when I was in high school, all the jocks would target me and mess with me. And who protected me? Every guy that was that tall on the basketball team. So when so many young black men were being targeted by the police, I started to recognize it and started to document. At first, I didn't understand where these paintings and drawings were coming from that I was doing. I was doing all of these really sad, dejected looking black children. And then one day it dawned on me, these are the orphans of these black men being killed.
Oh my gosh.
And when I started doing it, I didn't know where that was coming from. For me, it all just kind of like bubbles up from my unconscious. And then I started working on something, and I call it the national disgrace, and I have an American flag that's 12 feet tall, and it hangs upside down, and the red stripes, it starts out, you see anonymous black men who were lynched back in the past, and as you work your way across, it becomes people you recognize from the headlines. Troy Davis. You know, you can go on and on, all the names of black men who've been killed. And then in the White Stripes, it starts out with Klansmen and gradually becomes the militarized police we have today. And I replaced the stars with burning crosses because it is blatantly racist the way that's quote unquote law is enforced. And it is enforced, it's not. Officer friendly doesn't really exist anymore. And it's only actually been displayed in public once because a lot of people were uncomfortable, especially with how I display it. Because when I display it, it's hung by 2 nooses.
Ooh.
And when I displayed it, I put a tarp down and I put a hoodie there, a can of tea, some Skittles, and bullet casings. And I made it so big because I wanted it uncomfortable. People couldn't stand by it for very long because they recognized too many faces who had been murdered largely because of the melanin content of their skin. Had they been a white kid who had gone into a church and killed a bunch of people, they wouldn't have been shot. They would have been taken in the police car and treated like a person. And yeah, I've only had one place that's been willing to display it publicly for fear of, the repercussions of showing something that stark.
Yeah.
And I have a history of being rather heavy-handed with my art intentionally, because it gets the attention that needs to be gotten. So I'm heavy-handed.
So, bringing this back, especially for the past year or so between COVID and then George Floyd and then Jacob Blake, and in your own city, how has that affected how you've made art and how you've seen Kenosha as a whole?
Well, when COVID hit, I pretty much dropped off of the radar. Because of my age, being a transgender person, and having experienced the government ignoring a virus and letting it run its course, like they did with AIDS, and then seeing Trump do the same thing, basically, I just dropped. I'm not going to become a victim to this, and I continued showing my art online, but I haven't had a gallery show. I take that back, I've had 2 gallery shows in the last year. And I'm starting to look around to put stuff out there again, but as far as what was going on with the riots and everything, I saw some very controlled chaos. I found it interesting the way that the riots and the fires and everything like that happened. Yeah, some stuff was destroyed downtown. Uptown was decimated. Uptown is largely a minority community. And I couldn't help but notice that of all the businesses that were burned to the ground, not a single one of them was a national chain. They were all small, independent businesses in a minority community in a country that minorities are targeted and are more likely to have a history with maybe having a felony or something like that. And getting grant money after something like that is much harder. After money was, grant money was given to Kenosha, I saw a lot of the downtown businesses building back up. You go to Uptown, it's still mostly boarded up. And people, when I talked about it, people were like, yeah, well, that's what insurance is for. Have you ever seen an insurance company just gladly give you money? No, they'll fight it tooth and nail. And if you don't have as much money to begin with, maybe you live above your business. So in one night, you lose your business, your entire livelihood, and your home. You're homeless. And you don't have a job anymore because it's been burned to the ground. And now you've got to go fight the insurance company to get your money. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that they're still boarded up. It's been over a year. Well, not quite. It's been close to a year.
Yeah.
And I can't help but look at the fact that downtown, almost everybody is rebuilt and they're open again. But uptown, no. I can't help but feel like a bad situation was used to clear out an area so that moneyed people can come in. Because I have a number of friends who they work in what's referred to as futurism, and they look at the futures of markets. Mm-hmm. And the Kenosha Racine area has been looked at heavily as the next hot point for where people of means can really make money. And it almost looks like, disaster capitalism. Never let a good disaster go to waste. Hey, we can clear these people out of the way, and the people with money can come in and have these expensive boutiques. Mm-hmm. And gentrification is financial violence, in my opinion. That's the terminology that I've used for it. I actually have a few paintings about, in fact, one of them is titled Regentrification is Financial Violence. I kind of feel like that situation, it was a powder keg waiting to happen. It happened, and now it's been used to just sweep the page clean, and now we can have all these expensive boutiques take their place. And the people who live there, I don't know, go somewhere else. Yeah. There's a lot more money coming into Kenosha now, and it definitely is influencing the politics and the community.
Okay. So, what would you like to see for Kenosha's future then?
I do want to see the arts thrive in a manner that artists can make a living. Because, ever since the pandemic, I quit my day job and I live solely on my art. Mm-hmm. So I want to see the arts thrive, but at the same time, I don't want it to just be artists who came here because they heard that this is the hot spot. I want, I guess you would call it the indigenous Kenosha people, mm-hmm. to be able to thrive without having to surrender their Kenosha-ness, Because, we are a unique community. I've been to a lot of other towns, and people in Kenosha, they're a little bit more, they're more welcoming. People always talk about Chicago being the city of big shoulders. I always add an extra word in there, big cold shoulders. Because an ex-partner of mine said, the thing about Chicago is when they have a choice between doing good or doing bad, they'll do bad if they make more money. It's real easy for them, you don't have the money, get out of here. I don't want to see that happen to Kenosha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've been here for a long enough time that I do consider Kenosha home. It's been home on and off to me since I was maybe 20, and I'm 53 now. So, yeah.
Okay. So, if there was something you'd like to let the Kenosha community know, or community or Kenosha leaders, or just anything that we've missed. If you'd like to, what would that be? What would you like to say?
Don't sell Kenosha short. Don't make us into a product. Just there's a uniqueness to Kenosha that a lot of people who are not from Kenosha, they notice it. I have a lot of friends who have moved here from Chicago, and it's kind of funny. They said, I come from Chicago where owning a gun is very difficult. Mm-hmm. And in Chicago, they heard gunfire all the time. And they said, you people have hunting up here and guns are legal. And I almost never hear it. And I was like, yeah. That's just who we are. That's just who we are. You know, I mean, I grew up with guns in the house, so I don't think a person gets one when they become a stark raving lunatic. My dad was an auxiliary cop, so I grew up with them in the house, and never once in my life did I think, so-and-so picked on me at school today, I'm going to take daddy's gun and, no. That's, yeah. But, yeah, Kenosha is a unique place that, it has a special place in my heart. I have no intention of leaving unless things were to get really, really bad. I mean, I do love it here. And it's artists, it's musicians. The music community is very rich here. And they help each other rather than just being cutthroat. The number of musicians that I know that you ask them what band they're in, and they have a list of like 4 different bands that they have their main band and then all these other bands that they help out. You know, so-and-so doesn't have a guitarist right now. Well, I'm filling in for them until they find one. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. And then the visual art. I guess there's theater, but that's really not my bag. Okay. And there's a growing number of people who do video art as well. Mm-hmm. And I fell into that. A number of years ago, I was heavily involved with when the National Equality March was going on. And I did all kinds of documentary work around that.
Okay.
So I got involved with video, and it was just a natural thing for me. And that's how I found that I was also good at photography. I took some pictures behind the scenes and sold a number of them, and yeah.
Yeah. And so, really, what you're looking for is retaining what Kenosha is, the people of Kenosha right now.
Yeah. I don't want to see it disappear and become kind of like nothing but Starbucks and, you know, McDonald's and stuff like that. I mean, I like all the little independent businesses, stuff like that, mm-hmm. and the uniqueness of this town. I don't want it to just become chain stores and shopping malls.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dub, so much for sitting and sharing with me. That was great.
Yeah, okay.